The best meals don't always happen in 10 minutes. They happen when you let the oven do the work for you. Sheet pan cooking isn't about rushing the process. It's about the convenience of one pan, zero stovetop hovering, and deep roasted flavor. I'm sharing 7 viral sheet pan recipes that you could make today. Okay, so what I'm going to use right now, I've got over 2 pounds of chicken breast that I'm going to just cut into chunks or slices. So you'll need minimum 2 pounds of chicken breast. And here I have 2 packs of fajita seasoning. Use the seasoning that you prefer. This makes life so much easier when I just have this to dump it in a bowl and mix it all up. I'm also going to be adding some cooking oil into the mix to marinate them. And I like to add Shaoxing cooking wine. This is optional. You could add cooking wine, you could add beer, or just leave it out altogether. Okay, so I've chopped up or I've sliced up all of my chicken breast. I'm just eyeballing this. I would say 3 tablespoons of the cooking wine. Again, optional. You don't have to add that. Now shake in the 2 envelopes or packages of that fajita seasoning all over. I'm going to give that a really good mix. I'm also going to add some of this cooking oil. I'm going to add a drizzle of cooking oil. I'm going to marinate this for 1 hour. You could go ahead and cook this, but I'm not ready for dinner yet, so just let it marinate in the refrigerator. I'm going to slice up 1 fresh bell pepper and onion, and if I had a fresh jalapeno or 2, I would add that as well. I'm going to preheat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, this marinated for 1 hour. So what I'm going to do on a baking sheet with parchment paper, I'm just going to spread this out in an even layer. Going to get everything. It smells wonderful, by the way. And then just spread this out. This is a large baking sheet. I think this is like, if I'm not mistaken, is it 15? No, 11 by 15, something like that. Here I've got my sliced peppers and onion, my red bell pepper. You could do green. Oddly enough, my grocery store was out of green bell peppers. I don't know. So we're going to put that all on top. And just do that. I'm going to add a little bit of the spray oil on top. And this is ready for the oven. I'm going to put this in my preheated oven and basically let it cook, roast, bake until it's done. It's going to take about, I don't know, if there's still a chill on this chicken, it's going to affect the cook time. If you let it sort of set out while your oven preheats, it'll probably take around, at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, 20-25 minutes or so, or until it's cooked through. Okay, here I have about 3 avocados. I've added some of these pickled jalapeno slices, and I'm going to add a couple of tablespoons of the pickling liquid, a good pinch of salt, it's done. Taste it for salt and seasoning and adjust to your preference. So easy. And also, here's how I'm going to store it. These avocados were sort of getting like past the point of like the perfect avocado. So it goes great as like this guacamole dip type, garnish or condiment that I'm making. You could also just eat this with chips. It's so good. Okay, this smells amazing, and I think it's done. It's only been like less than 30 minutes. So I'm going to take this out. Okay, and this is what they look like when they are done. They look amazing. Garnish how you like. Here I have some cilantro. That's going to be the top garnish. Here we go. And these are sheet pan chicken fajitas. I kid you not, the easiest way to make them. They are so good. Okay, Let me show you how I'm making these super easy tacos for dinner with these sheet pan chicken fajitas. I've got my guacamole. I've already lightly fried, warmed up my corn tortillas. Gonna go right there in the center. And now for these tender sheet pan chicken fajitas that you're going to try, you're going to make and enjoy. It's such a versatile, easy recipe with the seasonings of your choice right there on top. I want a little more onion. I've got the red pepper. Okay, this is the taco. This is the meal. Have it with sides. Have extra tacos. It's so good, so easy, and I kid you not, it came together like in 30 minutes. Well, with the exception of marinating the chicken, but if you want to just quick meal without marinating it, it's good. And this is a delicious, simple taco. Like I said, very versatile. You could use beef, chicken, tons of portobello mushrooms if you're going vegetarian. It all works, and it's such a simple, easy method to a delicious meal. Let me show you the power of the sheet pan. I'm going to show you the sheet pan casserole that is technically lower in carbs, has a bit more veggies to it, and I think if I were craving something healthier as far as pizza goes, I would make this. So this is an easy sheet pan recipe that comes together quick and, dare I say, better than pizza. Okay, here we go. So in the recipe, I am going to use 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour, but you definitely can sub that with almond flour for a lower carb option. Okay, so I'm going to slice and prep all of my vegetables. So I've had commenters that are on a health journey and want to see just healthier choices or options for some everyday recipes. So this would be my healthier option if you are craving pizza. So after slicing all my onions, I'm going to start on the batter. I'm going to crack 6 large eggs into the bowl. Essentially, I am using my chile rellenos casserole batter for this recipe. So I'm going to give these eggs a mix, break them apart, and kind of scramble them around in the bowl. That gives them a good head start. Now I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of heavy cream. You could also sub that with whole milk. Just give that a mix. I'm also going to add some seasonings, garlic powder, onion powder, and some Italian herbs. I'm also going to just grate in some Parmesan cheese. I would say a 1/3 cup of Parmesan cheese goes into this, and I'm going to give that a mix. And I will also link my chile relleno casserole recipe video if you want to try that one. Okay, I'm going in with my all-purpose flour. I'm going to sift it in, also adding 1 teaspoon of baking powder. You could add a pinch of salt, but I think the cheese is salty enough, but it really is up to you. If you want, add a 1/4 teaspoon to 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So now that that's all in the batter or into the egg mixture, you're going to combine this really well, give it a good mix. I'm also going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And like I said, make sure all the lumps are out of the mixture and you just combined everything well. And that's the batter. So in a large baking sheet, I've added cooking oil to the bottom. I placed the parchment paper, and now we're going to start layering this. So a little more olive oil goes onto the parchment paper. And now I'm going to start layering all of my vegetables. I'll start with some of the tomatoes. And what I like to do to the tomatoes is add a little extra of that dried Italian herb blend. This has no salt in it, by the way, it's just herbs. Now some mushrooms. I'm going to go in with some of my onion. I'm going to save the bell pepper, and I'm just going to pour that onto the tomatoes and other veggies. And you want to make sure that you spread it out into a single layer. This is going to work as this lower carb option crust. Okay, now go in with some of your shredded mozzarella cheese. In all, I'll be using 8 ounces of low moisture mozzarella. Now a little bit more of the tomatoes. I'm just going to add everything at this point. Now I'm going to go in with my onion and bell pepper. I'm also going to add probably just the rest of the veggies, and you kind of spread it out, layer it with some of the cheese until you add all the veggies. The rest of the cheese goes right on top. You'll want to preheat your oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and this is going to bake for around 20 to 25 minutes or until everything is golden brown and bubbly. Okay, so this has baked for about 20 minutes. Like I said, 20 to 25 minutes, but check this out. This is exactly what I was looking for. If I didn't know any better, this is pizza. So if you are craving pizza and you want a healthier option, then I think this is what you need to try. So I am going to just put this right on the stove. You could let it cool. I'm not, because what's pizza without burning the roof of your mouth when it's piping hot? Okay, so I'm just going to slice this into squares. And I'm super excited for this because it smells and looks like pizza. It was very simple to make. It's a healthier option in my opinion, and you can get really creative with the toppings. I like to mix some grated Parmesan cheese with crushed red pepper flakes. And this is another reason I didn't add salt, extra salt into that egg mixture, because Parmesan cheese is salty and I'm adding even more. Okay, so this looks amazing. I'm gonna top it with my little mixture here, and it's time to dig in. Viral sheet pan lasagna recipe that's been going around since last year. And instead of the lasagna pasta, I'm going with cheese-filled ravioli because that's what I have. So here we go. In a preheated pan, I'm going to add a tablespoon and a half of cooking oil. This is actually olive oil, half of a small onion that I diced, and I'm going to saute well. So for the meat sauce, I'm actually using ratios that will yield extra than what the recipe actually calls for. Here I'm going to add just a pinch of salt to help the onions saute better and brown. So back to the sauce. The original recipe calls for a pound of Italian sausage, and then 4 cups of marinara sauce with onion in the mix. You season how you like, and that's the ratio for this recipe. I'm going to be working with 2 pounds of meat. Right now I'm going to break apart the sweet Italian sausage, cook it, and now I'm going to add 1 pound of lean ground beef. So this is 2 pounds of meat going into what I'm making today. Like I said, at the end of this video, I'm probably going to have leftover meat sauce that I'll use later. I'm adding a teaspoon of salt. Here I'm adding a couple of shakes of crushed red pepper flakes, cracked black pepper. I'm also going to add in a teaspoon of garlic powder. I'm eyeballing things, and now I'm just going to break apart the meat and cook well. Now that everything is browned and sauteed and cooked through, I'm going to add a 14-ounce can of crushed tomatoes that I had in my pantry. I'm going to add that and give this a mix. Now I'm going to add a 32-ounce jar of marinara sauce. Again, the original recipe calls for a pound of ground meat, whether it's Italian sausage or ground beef, and 4 cups of marinara sauce, which is 32 ounces of marinara sauce. So I'm going to give this a mix. At this point, you'll want to give it a taste and adjust the salt and seasoning to your preference. For example, I am going to add like a teaspoon and a half of sugar. Some people don't find that necessary. It really is up to you. I'm going to give this a mix. I'm going to cover this with a lid, lower the heat, and let it simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes. Then I'm going to shut off the heat and just let this hang out until I'm ready to use it. I'm going to work on the ricotta spinach mixture. Here I had a 5-ounce container of baby spinach leaves. You could use somewhere between 5 to 6 ounces. Into a preheated pan, I'm adding some olive oil, and I'm going to just saute and wilt down all of this fresh baby spinach. So I'd like to mention, this is an easy recipe if you want to cook something easy but delicious for the weekend or for a special occasion. Give this recipe a try. So good. Okay, so I'm shutting off the heat. The spinach has sauteed and wilted down. So I am going to place this in a bowl and I'm going to chop it with my kitchen shears to make it into smaller pieces, because I'm going to mix this into about 15 to 16 ounces of ricotta cheese. I actually have a 30-ounce container, so I'm just going to go for 16 ounces of ricotta cheese, or half of it would be 15 ounces. So once I have all of my ricotta cheese in the bowl with the spinach, I'm just going to give it a mix, and I'm going to set that aside until I'm ready to put this sheet pan lasagna, which is actually ravioli pasta bake. There. So like I stated earlier, instead of using a pound of lasagna pasta, I'm going with 20 ounces of cheese ravioli. So into a large bowl, I'm going to add that package of ravioli. This is fresh, not frozen. And now I'm going to add probably half of what I made. But remember, just follow the ratios from the original recipe, which is a pound of meat, seasonings, and 4 cups of marinara sauce. So I haven't mentioned this in a while, but my Facebook page is still hacked, and hackers have even created another Simply Mama Cooks Facebook page. I am no longer posting on Facebook, so do not follow those pages. Okay, so this looks like enough. I have some left. Now I'm going to add some shredded low moisture mozzarella cheese, around 1.5 cups, into this bowl, and I'm going to give everything a good mix. And with the rest of that cheese, that's what I'm going to top the sheet pan pasta bake with. Here I'm going to add some cooking oil, or this is actually olive oil, to a 12 by 17 baking sheet or baking pan. And I'm going to pour in all of that pasta, meat sauce, cheese mixture. And what you'll want to do, and if you are using the pound of lasagna pasta that you'll pre-boil, you just do the same thing. Mix it just like I did with the meat sauce and the cheese and the ravioli. And I'm going to spread this out into a single thin layer onto the baking sheet. So now I'm going to dollop in little mounds throughout the baking sheet pasta here of this ricotta spinach mixture. Okay, so with the rest of the cheese, it's like another cup of cheese, I'm going to just add it to all the exposed areas around the ricotta spinach mixture. You can shred it yourself. I just opted for bagged cheese, I know. So this is done. I'm baking this in a preheated oven at 425 degrees Fahrenheit for about 25 to 30 minutes. And this is what it looks like when it's done. It's so cheesy, melty, crispy, golden brown crust on top. Goodness. And just look at this. It really is perfect. This is such a cool recipe. You should give it a try. Okay, so I'm going to serve up a slice. And once you let it set and you cut into it, like I said, if you're using the original recipe, which calls for a pound of lasagna sheets that are kind of broken and cooked, then, you know, it's easier to cut into square pieces. Honestly, even with a ravioli, it's easy to cut. But look at this. It smells amazing. I already know it's going to taste good. Today I'm going to show you how to make sheet pan enchilada casserole 2 ways. This is going to be good. Okay, so I'm going to start with the green chicken enchilada casserole on the sheet pan, and I'm going to boil some chicken. I've got a little over 3 pounds of chicken going into a pot of cold water. To that, I'm going to add 1.5 tablespoons or heaping tablespoon of chicken bouillon powder. That's optional. Season how you like. I'm going to crank up the heat and let that boil and cook. So for the green salsa in this recipe, I have a really good recipe for it. It's very simple in my cookbook, or you can use store-bought. It's 16 ounces going in this recipe. So I'm going to use cold corn tortillas, and I'm going to cut these into 4s or into quarters. And I'm just going to go right down the middle and then in half again. And this makes it so easy because now I'm going to just layer these on a baking sheet with parchment paper, and I'm going to put a layer down, add some cooking oil, and then add the rest right on top. And I'm going to warm these through. You want to heat them through. You don't want to turn them into crispy chips, but you do want to heat them through with the cooking oil because it keeps its texture and it doesn't disintegrate when you add anything wet on top of the corn tortillas. So cold oven, and as I'm preheating the oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, I'm going to let them warm through for a couple of minutes during the preheating process. Okay, so at this point my chicken is done. So I'm going to remove it from the pot. And I also want to mention, to make this recipe even easier, just use rotisserie chicken. Pick up a 2-pound rotisserie chicken from the grocery store, shred the meat, and you've got cooked chicken ready for this recipe. Another tip is to save the chicken broth. You can use this when you're making Mexican-style rice. So good. Okay, so I'm going to remove my tortillas out of the oven. It's still preheating, by the way. I just wanted these to warm through. And so now it's time to put everything together. Here, I have my bowl of shredded chicken. And for the cheese, I will be using 8 ounces of mozzarella. Here I have some Colby Jack cheese, but that's for the other casserole. But 8 ounces of low moisture mozzarella. And here I have a 15-ounce container of Mexican table cream. I would say heavy whipping cream is the equivalent, and I have my green salsa. So I'm going to start with a handful of this shredded cheese, and that goes right on top. And then I'm going to go in and just add all of the shredded chicken. So I can't tell you how simple and easy this is if you have store-bought salsa and rotisserie chicken that you shred and already pre-shredded cheese. I mean, this is seriously a meal that you can put together in under 30 minutes. So just layer all of that tender chicken. I'm going to use every last morsel. Those 3 pounds of chicken pieces just yielded a lot of tender chicken. And after I add all of the shredded chicken, I'm going to season with some onion powder. By the way, season how you like. I'm also going to add a sprinkle of seasoned salt. This is like a seasoned salt blend that I'm almost out of, and just sprinkle that on top. And now I'm going to go over with half of this jar or container of this heavy cream. This is actually thick Mexican table cream. It's not sour cream, and you could use sour cream if you like, but I'm going to just drizzle this all over the top. I would say 1.5 cups is what I'm going to end up using out of this. So I think one more pass over with this. And now I'm going to add all of the green salsa. And use your favorite store-bought one, homemade one. And honestly, if you don't have green salsa, sometimes I like to add just like a salsa roja. It all comes together and tastes great in the end. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure I get this kind of like evenly distributed. So now I'm going to go over with more of my crema. Okay, now for all of the cheese. So recently I posted Better Than Pizza sheet pan casserole, and someone in the comment section asked if I had other sheet pan recipes or if I've tried sheet pan enchiladas, and to that I say yes, I have. This is exactly what I make. It's either this one or the other one I'm going to show you in a minute. Okay, a little bit more of the crema, and that's that. You'll want to make sure you preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit and bake for about 25 to 30 minutes. So I think for those of you that love casseroles or enchiladas and love the crusty edges, a sheet pan version of this really does yield a toasty top and crusty edges. So if you like those textures, then you should try this. Oh man, this looks amazing. Okay, let me show you how I make the other one. So I'm working with 1.5 pounds of lean ground beef. I'm going to add oil to my preheated pan. Well, semi-preheated. I'm going to shake in some onion powder, like a 1/2 teaspoon to a full teaspoon works, and the same for garlic powder. Typically 1 pound of ground beef works for this, but I'm working with 1.5 pounds. That was the package. I'm adding like a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to break this apart, and I'm just going to cook and brown the ground beef in this pan. So I like to make this sauce slash enchilada gravy. And I mixed all of my ingredients, but this is what I used. It's in my cookbook. I labeled it as red sauce, but it's like a red sauce gravy. And it's just cooking oil, all-purpose flour, chili powder, chicken bouillon or beef bouillon, garlic, onion powders, ground cumin, and 2 cups of water is going to go in. This is going to create a roux, then a sauce. Okay, so my ground beef is cooked. I'm going to create a space in the center. I need a little extra cooking oil in the pan. Now, if you're using like 80-20 ground beef, you might need to remove some oil, but I'm going to add this all in the center. And essentially, you're creating a roux with all these seasoning, spices, and flour. So I'm just going to mix it around, and you'll want to cook the flour or this mixture for about 1.5 minutes, maybe a minute. So now I'm going to add 2 cups of room temperature water. If I were to add hot water, you run the risk of having a lumpy gravy sauce. So room temp water works. Okay, give that a mix. And what I'm going to do is crank up the heat at this point, and you'll want to bring this to like a simmer and let it thicken. So this is exactly what I'm looking for. So I'm going to shut off the heat, and this is ready. I'm going to prep the corn tortillas the same way. Cut them into quarters and layer them on the baking pan and just add cooking oil, zhuzh them around, and you're going to warm them through in the oven. And once these are done, it's time to build this. Okay, so I've got my warmed layer first with the tortillas. Now I'm going in with a handful of this Colby Jack cheese. I'm using about 8 to 12 ounces of cheese for each of these casseroles. Like, definitely works. Okay, so now I'm just gonna pour over, or just add this because it has, as you can see, it's really thickened. I'm gonna add this ground beef mixture right on top. And this version of sheet pan enchilada casserole is my son's favorite. Okay, going on with the rest of the cheese. And this one is really simple once you get the meat cooked and the sauce mixed together. Okay, so going in the oven for another 25 to 30 minutes at 375, and this is done. Has set for a little bit, and it came out in a perfect piece. And I'm diving into this. This is like my favorite. Now this casserole didn't set as long, but it still came out in one piece. So once you serve them, be sure to get creative with the toppings and enjoy. Today I'm going to show you how to make one of the most delicious, easiest chicken roasts in one sheet pan. This is perfect for dinner during the week, and the best part, it's all in one pan. Okay, so here I have, this is right over 5 pounds, and I've sort of cleaned it up, trimmed it up a little bit, removed everything from the cavity, and I'm just going to pat it dry, and I'm going to show you how to spatchcock this. By the way, I am not a professional. I know enough to get the job done, so maybe it'll help you. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and I'm going to work on the back side of the chicken here. And I'm going to put it here on a baking sheet to give myself more room. And I'm using very sharp kitchen shears, and I'm just going to cut along the side of the backbone. And it shouldn't be that hard, but I am trying to work around the oyster here. There we go. Okay. So you've cut the chicken open, and you can save the backbone. Actually, the oyster's like right here, so you sort of don't want to cut into that. But I'm going to remove this side too, a little bit. And then just cut that out. There. You can save that. And now what I'm going to do, this is a heavy chicken, is split, cut a little bit between the breast, and then you can cut it open like that a little bit, press it down. So there we go. So now, and all you do is just take the wing and set it behind itself like that. And there is your spatchcocked chicken. Not bad. And you kind of want to avoid getting the skin exposing the meat, the breast meat. So what I'm going to do is take a little bit of the skin from the backbone, and you can just kind of cover up, tuck that in, and you cover it up so it doesn't dry and burn as it roasts. And there it is. Okay, so let's season this. And I'm gonna put this on a larger baking sheet. So let's bring it over here. And okay, that's there. Of course, when I'm working with chicken, I have to wash my hands over and over again. I guess that's another reason why people wear gloves. Okay, the chicken. So I am going to use 2 seasoning blends. I'll put them in the description what I'm using. Lemon pepper, smoked paprika, salt, pepper, onion, and garlic powder are my go-to chicken seasonings. Do that if you don't have like your favorite seasoning blends. But I'm going in with some lemon pepper because I like it. And this is wood-fired garlic blend. It has like, you know, the paprika, salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder all over the chicken, right? I'm gonna use one hand because I want my other hand to stay clean. Okay, that'll work. Okay, go back over and sprinkle your favorite rubs or seasonings that you like. I'm gonna go over with the lemon pepper. And I love cabbage with chicken. That is just, it's a must for me. I think I cut too close to the core. There we go. Okay. Oops. Okay. Let's just arrange this. I'm gonna do the cabbage like over here, get everything. So to season the veg, I'm just gonna do salt, pepper, garlic, and onion powder. Season how you like. And first, I'm just gonna spray. I probably should have sprayed the chicken, but just kind of give it a coating, a light coating of cooking oil. And then just season liberally. I'm gonna let this hang out. It helps if you just let it set for about 15 to 20 minutes because this chicken is very, very cold. And if I were to put this into my oven super cold, it probably won't cook as evenly. So I'm gonna let it hang out while I preheat the oven. I'm gonna preheat to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. A little bit more salt. Careful. Okay. There we go. It's a large sheet pan. Okay, so the chicken is out of the oven and I'm going to let it rest for about 15 to 20 minutes. Doing this will just make the chicken a lot more juicy when you go to slice into it and serve.
Hey Mom, is it ready?
So there's a wing. And then you just sort of just cut into the chicken here. Okay, and here is the chicken quarter, the thigh and the leg. A delicious plate of roasted chicken and vegetables. I cooked the chicken and everything at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and it took around 55 minutes. Essentially, you want to cook the chicken until the internal temperature on the thermometer reads 165 degrees Fahrenheit, but look, roasted chicken, so good. I've got fresh zucchini, I've got eggs, I'm gonna cook some Italian sausage, and I'm gonna make this delicious zucchini sheet pan casserole, so good and easy. To start, I'm working with 5 large zucchini. And I'm also working with Italian sausage. This is mild turkey Italian sausage. You could use spicy if you like. My husband kind of helped me shred the zucchini. By the way, I love using shredded zucchini in a lot of dishes. I might be sharing them soon enough. Okay, so I'm going to remove the casing from all of the turkey sausages here. And this is mild sweet Italian sausage. And if you want to skip Italian sausage, you could just use ground turkey or ground beef and season how you like. But I love this ground turkey Italian sausage. So in a preheated pan, I'm just going to start adding all of the sausage and just remove the casing. So like I said earlier, you definitely can use spicy Italian sausage. I like to add a little bit, so crushed red pepper flakes. Here I'm adding some cracked black pepper. I'm also going to shake in some onion powder because I like it. And that's optional. So I'm just going to continue breaking this apart and cooking until it is browned. Just like this. Okay, so this is cooked through, so all I'm going to do is just shut off the heat, and I'm going to let this cool while I prep the other ingredients. Okay, so here I have a large bowl. I'm going to put this kitchen towel or tea cloth, works for this, and I am going to basically squeeze out any moisture from the zucchini. This will just help the overall texture of this casserole, the sheet pan casserole. And I'm really making a mess here, but I'll tell you what, I always get requests for zucchini recipes. And I notice a lot of my viewers, and actually my sister as well, people who garden always grow zucchini and tomatoes. So I'm always getting requests for tomato recipes and zucchini recipes. So be on the lookout for some zucchini recipes I might be posting every now and again, especially for my sister because she's asked. Okay, so I'm having a hard time squeezing this, so I'm going to get some help. Can you squeeze this and squeeze out the water?
Okay.
You got to twist and squeeze into the bowl. Nice. Okay, so this is a sheet pan recipe, so I'm working with a very large sheet pan. This, I believe, is like an 11 by 17. Okay, so I'm gonna add some cooking oil, and someone in the comment section of my last sheet pan video, the one I did with like sheet pan pizza casserole, asked how I did that, and this is how I did it. I put cooking oil down, then the parchment paper. It helps it to stick. Okay, so that is ready. Now I'm going to add all of this shredded zucchini. And like I said, be sure to squeeze out the moisture. It just helps the overall texture of this sheet pan casserole, especially if you want like crispy edges. Okay, so spread that out. I am going to add a little bit of cooking oil, and I'm going to just kind of toss that all together. Make sure it's lightly coated with a little bit of that oil. Honestly, you probably could skip the oil. I just did it because it just felt right. Okay, so once that's spread out, I'm going to season. I'm going to add some granulated onion powder. Season how you like, by the way. I'm going to add some cracked black pepper. And I'm also going to sprinkle on some garlic powder. If you want to add seasoning salt, and you'll notice if you want to add salt to this, like salt in layers, but I'm going to leave out a lot of the salt in this recipe, but you definitely can season and salt to your preference. So in a large bowl, I'm going to work on this batter. So I'm going to crack in 6 large eggs. Now just give that a mix. By the way, I'm going to show you this sound, and the feeling of crunching these eggs is just my favorite. I love doing that. Okay, so I'm going to beat and scramble these eggs in the bowl. I'm also going to add some cracked black pepper. By the way, season this how you prefer. If you want seasoned salt, if you want some Italian seasoning, some smoked paprika, regular paprika, you really can get creative. I'm adding some onion powder. And you'll also want to add maybe like a ½ teaspoon of salt. But like I said earlier, I'm going to leave that out. I'm also going to add a ½ cup of heavy cream. And just combine that well. Okay, so for this next ingredient, if you're on a low carb, no carb situation, you can skip the all-purpose flour and opt to use maybe almond flour. I'm going with 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour, and I'm going to add a teaspoon of baking powder into the mix. And like I said earlier, this would be a good time to add like a ½ teaspoon of salt into this, but I'm going to skip on the extra salt. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just give this a really good mix. And sifting in that all-purpose flour just helps to remove the lumps, and it makes the mixing part a lot easier. So for those of you that have seen my sheet pan pizza casserole, it's kind of like a healthier version to pizza when you're craving it. I have just been in my sheet pan casserole era, so you're going to see a lot of these over the summer. So I'm going to add a handful of grated or shredded Parmesan cheese, maybe like a half cup. You could also add mozzarella, you could do cheddar if you prefer. I'm working with Parmesan, so I'm just going to give that a mix. And this is pretty much the batter, the egg mixture that's going to go onto this. And I'm going to spread it all over this. And you'll probably think you want more egg in this, and you definitely can add 1 or 2 more eggs into this batter. But I really want just crispy edges, so I'm just going to work with what I have today. Okay, so I'm going to scrape the bowl and just sort of spread this out evenly, or as best as you can. So while I'm prepping this, I want to mention this. You essentially could add all of this shredded zucchini into the bowl with the egg mixture. That totally works. Put it in a casserole dish. That works. Okay, so I'm going to get a little more of this Parmesan cheese. By the way, you notice this is one of the reasons that I didn't add the salt into the mixture, because Parmesan cheese is kind of salty, and I'm working with a lot today. But that really is up to you. Okay, spread a little bit more. Now I'm going to add all of that cooked Italian sausage. Remember, this is turkey sausage. And again, if you follow me regularly, I had a couple of people ask for like semi-healthier recipe ideas. So I think this is pretty healthy compared to some of the other stuff I make. And this does come together quick. And it's just another way to utilize zucchini in a casserole. Okay, so the ground meat went on. So now for the rest of the cheese. In all, I grated around 6 ounces of Parmesan cheese. Okay. So this is going to bake in a preheated oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 25 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes. And once it's done, it's going to look just like this. By the way, it smells amazing. Honestly, this probably took more like 25 minutes to bake, but cook time does always vary because, you know, it depends where you live, the calibration of your oven, and you just want to watch out for it, but make sure at least 25 to 30 minutes. Okay, so you could let this set, but I'm not, because I'm just going to plate this up, cut right into it, and, you know, burn my mouth trying it. Because honestly, this is my first meal of the day. It's already mid-afternoon, so I'm kind of hungry. But check this out. I love the crispy edges in the top, and it really is so easy to put together. Okay, time to dig in. So while I burn my mouth here on camera, I wanted to mention that I have received messages that you all wanted to see maybe like healthier, lighter type recipes, and I have been on sort of a health kick lately. Not to say that I'm on some sort of strict diet, because I like to eat what I want when I want, even though I probably shouldn't. So if you want to see some of the stuff that I'm doing that I don't film, let me know. I'll show you some of the recipes that I've been making privately that really are delicious and filling. But this, you gotta try this. This is so good. So I will see you in the next video. Bye.